Hi, on the next episode of DevOps Lab, join me and April as we dive into Terraform and she explains to us about state files. Hi, my name is Abel. Welcome to the DevOps Lab. On this episode, we are going to be diving into Terraform and talking about
state files.
And with us today is April Edwards. April, I'm so happy for you to be here. This is going to be really cool. I'm a big fan of Terraform, and state files, I've always been a little bit confused about what the purpose is for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me back, Abel. So in the first episode, we talked about Terraform, what it does. Today, I want to break down the different components of what each of those things do and how we enable that in the real world, right?
Yep.
So let's start off with state files. So what is a state file? The state file holds all of our data that we're deploying in our environment. So let me give you an example, right? So on the screen here, I've deployed a resource group to Azure already. It's called Abel's resource group.
Yes.
Now, I want to make changes to what I'm doing. So I've already deployed this. It's already sitting in Azure. And to give you guys a bit of proof of that, I pull up the portal here, and we have Abel's resource group. Now, there's nothing in it. We're going to keep this really simple. Abel's resource group has no resources, but it is there.
Okay.
So to make changes, when we go into our code, I'm just going to go ahead and add that resource group. Just do a quick resource group on the fly. I'm going to call it Abel's even better resource group. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm just going to save those changes. So that's saving to a file. I'm going to go into my PowerShell, load it up, and type in Terraform plan.
Okay.
So what the plan is doing, plan is going into the state file and going, right, I want you to go ahead and write the changes that we've just made, and that's fine. So I managed to fat finger something already, because welcome to whatever day of the week it is.
It happens.
So we're going to do that again. So I actually what I didn't do was define the second resource group properly. So that was my own fault. I'm going to hit Terraform plan. And what it's going to do, it's going to call that state file and say, what is already existing? It will see the existing resource group, and it's going to spit back at us. Actually, there are some changes to be made, and it's going to persist right now. And it will say, we're going to add a resource. So the state file tells us when we're going to change resources, we're going to add them, or we're going to delete them. So in this first example, we're just adding a very simple resource group.
Right.
So that's running. It's refreshing the state file as we speak. And it's actually not persisting anywhere. It's just reading the state file. So we haven't actually made any changes to our environment, and we haven't made any changes to the state file itself.
Okay.
So we can see here, if you look at the screen, it's going to add one resource. So right here, where it says plan to add one resource.
Okay.
So when I hit Terraform apply, it's going to make that change. So it's going to then
when you say make that change, do you mean it makes a change in Azure?
So it's actually going to write to the state file. It's going to add it. It's going to reference that state file again and say, oh, I need to add this resource, as we just discussed in our plan. OK, great. And then when we go into Azure, yes, it's going to build at the same time.
All right.
So if I go in and refresh my portal, we should see a new resource group come up, making sure that it all went through properly. Yes, it did. So yep, there we go. We want to confirm that action.
Okay.
And it's going to run through the apply again. So it's continuously writing to the state file and deploying the resource for us as well. So I go back into Azure, refresh, and we should have a new resource group that says Abel's even better resource group.
All right. So it takes a little bit of time to apply.
It does. It's not instantaneous. So we're also going up to the cloud right now. We're not doing it on-premise. Now I'm writing to a state file on-prem, and here we go. We have Abel's even better resource group. So it's not quite instantaneous. There's a little bit of a delay, but we've spun up that resource group.
All right, so let me recap, because I just want to make sure I understand everything. So the idea is, with Terraform, I get to describe what my infrastructure should look like, right? But the way that it does it is in an empirical manner, right? You basically script out the type of resources that you want to create. The way that Terraform protects from drift, I guess, is by these state files. So a state files is now going to represent what should be deployed up in Azure or in my resource group.
Yes. So in this file that I've deployed today, we can see that I have a state file here. So it actually shows us what's been deployed.
Okay.
So this is great, because we actually have a state file. We know it's been deployed. We have record of what we actually did, and we can timestamp it and version it, right?
Yep.
Now here's the problem. I've deployed this from my machine.
Right.
So in a real world environment, it's great to play around with, but in enterprise, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I'm not going to be deploying from my machine, right? Hopefully I'll have a pipeline or something like that that'll take care of this for me.
Absolutely. So I think it's really critical to sit here and highlight, we can deploy from our machines, that's great, but we actually need to secure that state file. Most organizations want to know, how is this a secure solution in the cloud? Because we need to secure our cloud deployments, right?
Yep.
So the way we do this in Azure, or even actually, you can do this on-prem, you can do it in other clouds, we need to put our state file into a storage account.
Okay.
And lock down the security keys to it and the access to it.
Okay.
So we have a script that we can run that deploys it. And what it does is it will deploy our state file out into it will tell the state file not to write locally, but write to a storage account, and then we can call it from that storage account.
So this state file, this is really important to keep safe, right? Because this is literally saying this is what my environment should look like. So if somebody hacks it in some way and goes in there, they can really mess up our environment.
Absolutely, and if you put it into like a GitHub repo, which is an option, if it's a public repo, people are going to see all of your data out there, so you don't want that.
Got it.
I have in my resource group.
Does it include like all the passwords and things like that?
Yes, so that's why I'm using Key Vault. So in my portal here, I've actually deployed a storage account. So we can script this. We don't have to do this manually. You can do it manually, or you can script it.
Sure.
And I'll reference the script in the sublines of the show, so people can have that, right? So I can create a storage account, and I can secure the keys of that to the Key Vault. So we've locked that down, we've secured it. Now, in an enterprise environment, we have everything in a storage account. We can make changes to that as a team, not just one person.
Sure.
So what the state file does is, as soon as you hit Terraform plan, it locks that state file, so no one else can make changes to it, which is really important, because if we want to do a real world demo or real life implementation, we're not going to just be deploying resource groups, we're going to be deploying resources, right? Into different environments. So that state file lock prevents other people from making changes while you're making changes.
Got it.
And then that also persists. Now the other thing is, it also isolates it from the environment, and we can isolate the state file per environment as well, so you can have multiple state files based on your environments.
Sure.
So there's different ways to do that.
Okay.
So what I have for you is another deployment. This one's a little bit more in depth. So instead of deploying resource groups, I'm going to deploy a resource group, some virtual networks, some subnets, and some virtual machines.
Okay.
And now this is already deployed in Azure as we speak.
Okay.
So if I go into my Azure deployment that I've already done, so I've already deployed another resource group. I've called it Scale Set Production. Okay. So what I've deployed is a storage account for my virtual machines, a load balancer, so we can load balance our workload, a public IP address to get to our scale set, a virtual network, and production VMs. So this isn't a scale set. So if we just go into this here, and forget everything else I put up. I put in a basic infrastructure that a lot of our customers are looking to do. Though they want to scale their apps in VMs, though they want to use web apps. I'm using VMs because there's a lot more continuity that customers want to know how to scale, right?
Sure.
So this is very practical. So right now, if you look at the portal, we're running actually 2 virtual machines, okay? This is great, it's a nice base environment, but actually I want to scale this to more and actually run a proper VM scale set. So I'm gonna go into my my configuration file here, and where it says capacity 2, we're gonna scale that out, let's say 25.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna save my changes. I'm gonna go into my PowerShell, and we want to Terraform apply that, and we're going to run that. So what it's going to do, it's going to call that state file and say what is existing, and it's going to see 2 resources. So it's going to change the 2 to the element we just put in 25, if that makes sense.
So when you say state file, you're talking about the state file that's actually sitting in my Azure storage.
Exactly, exactly.
Yep.
So we've secured our state file, it's calling it, but it's locked it out. So if anyone else in my organization is trying to make a change, they'll see that the state file is locked, because it'll say state file is locked, cannot make a change. They come speak to me or wait till I'm done, right?
Got it. Yep.
So it's secured, it's locked down, no one else can make changes, and we're scaling as we speak. So that's pretty cool. So yes, I'm happy with the changes. As you can see in the plan, it says 1 item to change. And if we go up here, you can see it's the capacity of the SKU of the type of VM. So we're going to 25. Great. So yes, that's fine. I hit enter, and it's now going to execute. So what we'll have now is 2 VMs, which will turn into 25. So I'm going to go into the portal, and impatient me is going to hit refresh, 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 right? And what we'll see is that they'll start deploying in a second.
Okay. So while we're waiting for the VMs to spin up, earlier you showed a screen where you said the state file is going to sit inside of Azure Storage, and you also had an instance of Key Vault, I saw.
Yes.
What is the Key Vault for?
So the Key Vault is securing my secrets
Okay.
for the storage account. So when we create a storage account in Azure, we can lock it down and not just give anonymous access to everyone,
Right.
private key access.
Okay.
So we take the key that we get when we create that storage account and we insert it into Key Vault. So it has to call that to access the storage account.
I see. So only certain people or certain machines or certain things that have the correct permissions, they're able to access the Azure storage, which has the file. Right?
Exactly.
The state file.
So it's not just open and available to anyone in your organization. Just because they have access to Azure, they don't have access to that resource per se, so they won't be able to make those deployments.
Got it. So much better than just sticking into my Git repo, because now it's really secured and locked down.
Absolutely. And this follows best practice with what HashiCorp recommends, what we here at Microsoft we recommend, to lock that down and secure it and keep your cloud secure.
Okay. So this has been, oh, look at that. There's all our machines now.
All of our machines are creating, some are starting, some are running,
Sure.
but we have 25 VMs. This you don't usually get this on-prem to achieve this, right? This is a
Right.
really cool feature of Terraform. So we're able to scale our environment, give us more VMs, give us more capacity, and do it on the fly,
Yeah.
right?
This is awesome stuff. Man, thank you so much for showing up on this show. Thank you for telling us about state files. It's always been something I've been a little bit curious about. I kind of sort of knew, but I didn't really. But now I get it, right? State files are important. It represents the current state of my environment. You showed us how you can lock it down so nobody can access it except for the people or the processes that need to. So it's nice and secure. And by having these state files, our very simple empirical scripts can now become, well, stateful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is great stuff. Thank you so much, April, and I hope you can join us next time.
Great. Thank you, Abel.
Thanks.